Hey, EB-Knispel here, and I'm going to be bringing you some tank gameplay on Devastation. Loadout is on the right hand of the screen. Now, honestly, Devastation probably has to be the top 3 maps in this game. And the reason why is because not only is the infantry gameplay on this map super satisfying, but if you know how to tank correctly, all the people that say this map is only for infantry, well, here today I'm going to show you that's quite the exaggeration. So one of the funnest parts of this map is just that it's a map that really a lot of spawn traps don't really happen on, although it can happen. But generally teams that know how to play Battlefield, or just the player base and players that are in the game that know how to play Battlefield, you won't find that happening too much. Because people will be wise enough to not get squad wiped, go around, flank around, and just spread themselves out. And one of the funnest experiences of this map is when teams don't really zerg, they're kind of like spread out a bit, so it's kind of like a bit of, 1v1's going on, even though there's maybe about 5 people around the flag, and you all kind of just timing your peekings perfectly, and vice versa. And it's just so satisfying. It's just constant tension, or just being left-clicking people. Like, it's just great. I love it. It's fast-paced. You maybe get like 1 or 2 squads per flag fighting it out between each other, but it's amazing, like, just how much fun it can be when sometimes the 2 zergs collide on this map. Anyway, I'll stop romanticizing about this map. So, the key to tanking on this map is, honestly, paying attention to your HUD, understanding where the flags are being capped. Sorry, let me reword that. Understanding which flags you own and which flags the enemy owns, and when and where it happened. So, like, if you lose a flag, right, and you're in the center flags, maybe you might get flanked there because they just took that flag. Not only does it serve them as a spawn point, but now they're probably rotating from that flag to either B or to the C flag, and they'll come up right behind you. So just understanding map rotation and map flow is what will determine if you survive or end up going big and large in the tank on this map. You probably can get away with running canister shells on this map, but honestly, I still find this loader extremely effective because at the end of the day, you might run into a heavy tank or one of the call-in tanks, and you would have to be able to deal with that. Unless you're in one of the smaller tanks where you can kind of just outrun the problem. So, like, if you're in, like, a Staghound, although it's playing in a Staghound on this map is pretty awful because it's not on tracks like the T-38. So when you play one of the smaller tanks on this map, you can kind of just outrun the problem and then just be in more places at once because you can just fit into anywhere. Take note of that as well, because if you're playing the Valentine on this map, the T-38 can do some very cheeky flanks on you, so keep that in the back of your mind like you have with all the infantry. So as far as also to succeeding well on this map is understanding how you can move across the flag. So what lanes can you hold, what ways you can enter. So like I know on this C flag a ton of ways how to enter in, what are the angles that my enemy can pick me from, and understanding that pushing into a flag by yourself in a tank is pretty much a death sentence. Especially against good infantry player, because one player will peek you from the left, while one will peek you from the right, and one will be behind you, right? So one fires from the left, grabbing your attention because your turret has to turn the other way. It's not like Battlefield 4 where you can turn your turret left and right really easily. So when you commit to shooting an angle and pointing towards an angle, that gives the other people that spawn on the flag an opportunity to hit you where it hurts, where they can't even be shot back at. So you need to time it perfectly, and you need to have prior information, like, is there anyone on that flag? Will me spawning on this flag spawn 10 players? So like checking the scoreboard to see how many of the players of the enemy team are dead at the moment gives you an idea of potential how many people might just spawn on the flag to defend it now you're trying to cap it. So pushing as a team together, but also spreading out. So like if your whole team's already on C, right? And you're like, well, I don't really need to be there because you can see that they've absolutely destroyed it. Maybe you position yourself on some of the flanks where the enemy team might be coming from because they might be trying to go around the problem. And then because you're doing that, you're cutting the rotation to go to other flags which are your team might not be defending, and then you're still then doing your job then. Because at the end of the day, not only is it a tank's job to make a breach head on into enemy flags, but also cutting their zergs down, or just simply yeah, as I just already said before. Also, one thing you need to take a note of in this map is which ammo depots are up and down, because people that are really smart will use it as a way to destroy you. So they might even set up some C4, so you're coming back, you're on half HP, right? And you're like, alright, I need to go get my ammo, I need to get my health back up, and they blow it up, and you're like, well, that's about the time you're going to be sent back to the spawn screen. So be very methodical and listen out, and kind of just put 2 and 2 together. As always, keep an eye out for mines in this map, because there's nice places where there's a couple of bumps where if you drive over it, if you're not really paying attention, you would just go straight over the top of the mines. Also be very careful of potholes, because that's where normally some mines will be placed, which are in a really hard spot for you to see. So sometimes you're going to have to just guess that there might be some mines in there and just shoot at the pothole and see if there's anything there. Yes, sure, that will give off your position, but honestly, I think they're going to hear the engine of your tank long before that. So yeah, sometimes if you're trying to listen out for players and catching them off guard, just sitting in idle in the tank so they can't really hear you is super effective. But make sure when you do this, you're in a position where you can get in and out of the scenario if it gets a bit too dicey for you. As you can see here, I actually have a bit of teamwork going for me. I've got some friendlies that are helping me out. Also, understanding where the enemy spawns for each flag is a really big thing. So like right there, you can tell, I can hear them coming from that back alleyway, and I kind of just know that's where they're going to peek me from anyway. One thing I would also like to point out as well, especially notorious on Devastation, when you come around to peek something or shoot at someone, be aware of the terrain you're driving over as well, because when you do, it will throw off your turret and screw with your aim a little bit. So keep that in mind. So flat ground's basically your best friend, but at the end of the day, sometimes the best way to catch good infantry players out is by playing super unpredictable and just pushing angles that in 1,000 years people would just not expect you to do. And that goes with any kind of like gameplay really, even if you're playing on foot as well, just being unpredictable. So sometimes this is it gets really interesting, where you learn really fascinating ways to approach a situation of players that don't know what they're really doing at all, and getting themselves in really creative or weird positions, and then just catching good players off guard, because like in 1,000 years, why would a good player do that? Also, one thing that you might need to consider trying to do to be actually good at tanking on this map is actually being a good infantry player. Why would you do that? It's a good question. The reasons why is because if you know how to move like a good infantry player around situations, you're going to understand all the tricky places that they're going to be able to peek you from, or get around you. So like if you know that they're trying to outrun you, right, because they don't have to deal with you, you might understand better how they will move across the map to get around that problem, so then you can counter that. Also, or just all the different and interesting ways they can peek you from and shoot a rocket from as well. It's why I've spent a fair bit of time, when people were still relevant streaming this game, seeing how they would move around this C flag was very useful, because I've found so many cool ways that you can peek people on this flag. Which hammers my point across. Yeah, specialize in something and master, but at least be good at every aspect of the game as best as you can possibly be, and find opportunities to always improve on them, because one thing that you excel in while trying to get better at something else could complement each other. One of my goals for this game, especially when I'm playing on Singapore servers, is I push myself to get as much as SPM as I can, highest KPM as I can, as well as not making any mistakes, hence trying to die as least as possible. So it's all about trying to be the most efficient tanker that I can possibly be on this map, while also being effective, e.g. winning the game. funny enough, I let that get the best of me, and that's actually how I end up dying this round. Because this, funny enough, believe it or not, isn't my highest kill round in a tank on this map. And you find in this here, I push, not only do I push an artillery strike, I push into a position which I probably didn't need to end up going because we were actually going to end up winning the game. But sometimes, just to secure the win, you need to make that ultimate sacrifice and die for the team so you can slow down a rotation, stop them fragging enough when the game is down low to this many tickets, and then just securing the W. Just to backtrack myself as well, I did realize also that the flag that I just left was getting contested, and I probably, instead of pushing the other flag and cutting off the rotation, it might have been worthwhile me going back and helping the rest of my teammates re-secure that flag as well. But either way, I was in a situation where I was doing something at least for my team. By the way, on a side note, when games are this close, hold down the key so that you don't bleed out, because you cost your team a ticket when you actually go back to the spawn screen, not actually when you spawn like in previous titles. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave some feedbacks or questions below, and I'll catch you guys next time.